and welcome to the No Taboo Woo Show.
I'm Sandra Logan.
And I'm Gail Chisholm.
If you enjoy being a fly on the wall of deep and meaningful conversations between pals on all things spirituality, healing, and personal empowerment, then you have landed on the right podcast.
Enjoy today's episode.
Hello!
I realised I've just shoved a mint in my mouth and we've just pressed record. That was stupid.
It was like, I'm going to have a mint, not that you can tell, just in case anybody catches the breath across the
I think it was,
ether.
well, I'm up in Scotland, the folks, because it's Dad's birthday, so we're going out for tea tonight.
Happy birthday
and
to
we
Dad!
Mum made, it was chicken arrabbiata for tea last night with
Oh,
garlic
nice.
bread. Oh, it was really nice. And then I've just had some homemade lentil soup. You can tell I'm home.
Oh, that's like
Everything's like
proper
home
comfort,
cooked.
eh?
We watched this program last night, which I think is on Channel 4. I think it's called You Are What You Eat, or What Not to Eat. I think that's what it is, because You Are What You Eat was a different one from a different era. And it was talking about processed foods and the effect of processed foods. And so it's made me really reflect, because I was like, I do, because they were talking about Eat the Rainbow. And I was like, actually, my diet's not too bad. Like so on one hand, if you look over here, you're like, yes, I Eat the Rainbow quite often have like it's home cooked meal and blah blah blah. And then on the other hand, so that's like not processed. And then
Yep.
on the other hand, if you opened a cupboard, yes, there would be crisps. Yes, there would be biscuits. Yes, there would be some sweeties. But this
Balance.
family that was on last night, it was like they were basically like beige food, and the amount of like, so it was interesting, because I was like, oh, this is quite a good reflection given what I think I'm going to focus on for myself for February, but also after I had my numerology forecast for between now and my birthday, some things to focus in around like health, well-being, good foundations, um, and actually like not just as a sort of physical health, but like spiritual, emotional, mental, etc. But it was just interesting watching that, because I was like, where are all the processed foods that I'm eating?
Yeah. That's so interesting that that's come up in your numerology when you were saying about like your 13 wishes and pulling out the self-love one, like loving your body and stuff. Like it's funny how like even without having had that report done, it's like you're already in alignment with
Yeah.
what you most need. Isn't that
Yeah,
cool?
there was a few other bits as well where I was like, because we were talking about like that kind of creating stability and looking at like what's the strategy and things, and actually realizing, because like she was like, why have you done part of this? And I was like, part of it was, I suppose, seeking validation on the things that I think I want to work on between now over the next 12 months. But this was like looking more deep dive into what's energetically the themes for me between now and my birthday, and where some of the challenges may arise. And when you sort of think of that, because it's like anything, there's a high vibration and a low vibration to any of these kind of cards, the numerology, your astrology, your human design, your tarot, whatever it is. So yeah, it was quite interesting how some of the things she was saying, I was like, oh, actually I was like, yeah, that's on my list to do, or I've been taking steps in that direction. So it's quite nice to know that intuitively, I've been feeling that direction and that pull. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was quite cool.
Any other insights or ahas that came from the report?
What else springs to mind? So she did send me, so the report has come in again. I haven't had the opportunity to read it yet, and she sent me the recording. But some of the stuff that I did actually take quite a lot of notes, which I thought might have been here, but I don't know if it's in this notebook or not. But there was that around that. There's quite a lot of hearts. So uses the numerology uses like the traditional card deck. So there's a lot
Like
of
playing
hearts.
cards.
Yeah, playing cards. That's the right word. And there was quite a lot of hearts that were coming out, which is like a cups energy.
Oh, yeah.
there was something towards the end around there was a 10 of clubs, which is interesting because that's Bob's birth card is the 10 of clubs. Um,
Oh.
and then she was also reminding me around she'd pulled a card for our conversation. It was a Jack of Spades that came out, I think. But she was saying just a reminder around like playfulness and fun. And I was thinking that's actually something that I'd noticed myself around that kind of like, when you're sort of moving house and doing stuff and things, it feels like there's lots of just feels like you're on the hamster wheel. And
Mm.
to remind you to just stop and do something that's a little bit fun and what's in the diary that's fun and um and then there was some stuff on yeah, there was a lot of hearts, there was some stuff on collaboration. There was something actually I was interested, like, I think it might be in, like, May time, April, May, June, might be May or June. Was it said it looked like something around, like, moving? And I was like, "Please no,
Not
please
another
no."
one.
But what she then said was, she was like, "Actually, uh, it looks more like" she said, "What's coming to me more around this is actually exploring different parts of your locale." So it's not necessarily travel or moving like abroad, but it's like actually, what's actually within your vicinity that could actually be quite
Yeah.
fulfilling or like, you know, it's that thing of like when you're searching for stuff to do, it's like quite often we can get stuck in like, oh, I don't really want to travel. What's in a 2 mile
Yeah.
radius? But actually, if you just go a little bit further, it's still quite local, but actually what's
Mhm.
around, so I was like, "Okay, cool." Unless, like, the house move is because of, like, suddenly won a lot of money and we're buying another house as well,
Or the
or
pod wildly
blows
takes
up,
off,
you know,
or the business venture, or
I don't know. We should get Anne-Marie on to come and talk to us about
I'd
numerology because
love
I know that
that.
there's quite a lot, like where you've got like your ruling number. So there's so many
Yeah.
layers to it. There's interplays with astrology and planetary alignments. There's like looking at what your ruling number is, what your birth card is,
Mm.
high vibe, low vibe of what the sort of energy is that's around in anyway. So
Mhm.
um I know bits of it because I know she integrates it into a lot of her coaching and work with people on the business. And actually, like, she does our energetic forecast, so it's like it's a really interesting modality,
Mhm.
and she's been working on it for quite a few years. I mean, I've known her for since 2018, I think, 2018, and actually she's been doing her forecast for the last sort of few years on it, and actually there's quite a lot of stuff that's quite accurate around what's going on collectively, what you can tap into,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I just
Yeah,
felt
let us know,
called
people
to
listening, if you're interested in finding out, or if anybody else is into their numerology as well. Sorry, you were gonna say you just felt quite called to.
Yeah, because like, I know Shelley, she that's how I met Shelley because we both worked with Anne-Marie,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
she gets an annual forecast on her birthday from her, and, like, obviously it's like anything, it's like a tarot reading, it's not, it's not gonna predict that you are a human, you have autonomy over the choices that you make, but when you sort of think, "Oh, there's this sort of energy, when might be an optimum time if you're thinking about big plans and
Mhm.
um, what the because as I say, there's quite a lot of like the planetary influences around. So it's pretty cool. Like I think if you're interested in anything we talk about on this podcast, you'd probably be interested in numerology. But I think that's the thing for me. It's like, I have an interest in it and I suppose obviously I've worked you know, what Anne Marie does, it's like picking a good tarot reader, right? Is like you've
Yeah.
got or a coach or someone like human design or embodiment yoga, whatever, right? Is each person has learned the fundamentals or the backbone of the principles on this particular thing. But why we sometimes work with a particular person is how they maybe layer on other things with it or their particular interpretation,
Mhm.
um, how they make you feel.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's but yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't know. It was one of those things where I was just like, well, I feel like I'm gonna. as I say, I think I was probably looking for a little bit of validation around the things that I was feeling drawn to
Yeah.
this year and the things that are on my pad. That way of
Mhm.
like, well, you know, it's not like that, when you're sort of a kid and you're like, well, my horoscope says.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm like, the numerology of this year says this is the right time to do blah, blah, blah. But I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. I can imagine people are watching this or listening, it's going, sake, Gil, just use your brain. But it's sometimes like when we've touched on this a little bit before, maybe in the early days of this podcast, but when you're on this journey to like the woo journey, to me, it's actually a lot of it's fundamentally tools to just connect to my intuition and to help
Yeah.
me really figure out myself and
Yeah.
know who I am and to cut out the noise, to understand what are my beliefs or what
Mhm.
is like something I've just gathered along the way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's so yeah, so that's partly maybe why I did it. Just because I felt like the energy was slightly different for me this year, but I'm going into numerological terms a one energy year, as is the collective. There's that overarching, which is
Yeah.
about new beginnings. And
Yeah.
I don't fully enter my so whilst there's 2026 as a one energy, I don't fully enter my personal one energy until my birthday. So I've still got this personal 9 year, which is all about closing out karmic connections, cord cutting, closing off contracts, particularly because I've got a lot of these hearts in there around like the relationships. Are there
Mhm.
relationships that need to end, or is there things that need to resolve so that when I go into my one energy year, I don't take those with me for the next 9 year cycle? It's
Yeah.
interesting.
There's so much of that going on, I think, just now, like as we're shifting. I know we've touched on this before about moving from the snake year into the fire horse year. And
Mm,
it's like, it's almost like the phase that we're in at the moment is like that. It's like that culmination point, I suppose, of everything that we've been learning over the past cycle. And then it's like reflecting on that. And I think that's like, I've certainly noticed like some themes coming up from the past. And it's almost like that, are you carrying this energy into that next cycle? Or is this something that's actually, have you learned everything that you need to learn from it
mm,
and then sort of move on from it? Because I think that something that I've reflected on a lot recently is like when you're sort of going through this, like we call it the spiritual healing journey, or, your healing journey or whatever, you can get so like caught in that perpetual healing cycle where, there's the old programs, the old stories, and the shifting into the new self, the higher self, and starting to really embody this newer version of yourself. But I think that sometimes in that work, we get a bit hung up on still working through it when actually you've already moved past some of these things. And what the one energy is really asking for, in terms of how I see it, is that actually you're stepping fully into that now. And it
yeah.
doesn't mean that there's not going to be old stories from the past that creep up or old fears or whatever, but you're in a new state of alignment where it doesn't hold you back and it doesn't keep you stuck in the way that it maybe once did. So
Mm,
I think it's really about taking all that you've learned and having this sort of empowered perspective moving forward, instead of getting too caught up in the in this perpetual state of healing, because we're always healing and growing on the journey. Like there is no end point. Like, because as we continue on into this next cycle, there's going to be new challenges that come up and new things that bring up the old fears. It's like new levels bring old devils, right? And or new devils even, where we have this energy that comes in to test us or test, this new state of being. But it doesn't mean that you're going backwards. It's just that there's almost like this other layer. I always think of it as
mm,
like we're like this onion, right? And it's like peeling back the layers of the conditioning and who we thought we were in life and all of the expectations of society and family and friends and all of this stuff to get to the heart, get to the real core of like who you are, and then embodying that version of you so that you actually go out and be that version
mm,
in the world and act as that version of yourself without having, even though the old stories might be playing in the background, they're not holding you back anymore. So it's really interesting, this energy, because it's like, it's almost like we're not where we were, but we're not quite where we're going. And maybe that's, it's always the way, isn't it? Because it's like, it's in the journey, it's not in the end point. But I really feel like this in between energy. I'd be interested to hear if anybody else is feeling that just now, where it's like
Mm.
this sort of like, I wouldn't say it's limbo, but it's like it's almost like we know that there's like energy shifting and that this fire horse energy is coming. And it's almost like this feeling of, like I said to Gail in a voice note the other day, this is how I described it. It was almost like, a racehorse when they're about to head off for a race on the track, right? And they're in those pens, and it's almost like they're like, champing at the bit to like get going and get into this next cycle. But the energy, like the time's not quite right. And it's almost like once the energy is in alignment and we've gone through these like energetic cycles of astrology and, if we look at the Chinese New Year and astrological New Year and everything, and once that energy is sort of supportive of then taking that leap forward, it's almost like the
Mm.
gates open and you're off. But it's like this sort of preparation phase where there's almost like this little build up. I'm certainly feeling that. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do. I think maybe that's partly why I, booked the time with Anne Marie because I was thinking like it feels quite fresh for 2026. It feels like
Yeah.
it's slightly different. Um, and also like the other thing that's been kind of going through my head a wee bit is a kind of like an if not now, then when, especially when you're, thinking from like a business perspective and, um, like it's sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not easy being self-employed. And then so you start to think, well, in fact, we've talked about this a few times where like the amount of people I've followed on TikTok where they've come on my feed at like 10 followers and I'm like, oh, I like what you're doing. I follow them. And they're now, because they've been consistent and they've just been if not now, then when, and gone all in on something. And now they're like, hundreds of thousands of followers and like they now don't need to do their grindy job. And I was just like, okay, there's a lesson there. Like, why do you keep putting off till tomorrow what you can do now? And I
Mm,
don't know, maybe that's where I was just feeling like, also, because, for both of us, it's a big birthday year.
mm,
It's like that brings, certainly for me personally, that's extra reflection,
same.
um, on, like, if it's somebody I know has turned 50 today, and one of the things she was saying she's going to do is just journal on 50 years of life. And I thought, gosh, that's quite a big thing. Um, and I was like, that's like a good thing for me to maybe do. Or you could do 40. I
Yeah,
maybe
almost
like
like
the extra
looking
10
at
year day.
what were the
Yeah,
life
but
lessons. I think that's such a good thing to reflect back on, though. Like, I mean, because it is such a huge chunk of, well, it's like your entire life to this point,
mm,
right? So, like, to look back, it's then also acknowledging like all of the growth that you've had on that journey.
yeah,
Like, we forget that sometimes because we're taking it a day at a time. And sometimes we do
yeah,
forget to look back and just see how far we've come, like from, the versions of ourselves that were at school or like,
mm,
first loves, all that kind of stuff. Like there's so many different stages of life that we've been through. I think I'll
mm.
do that. Look, sit down and do
Let's
some
see what
writing,
comes
I
up
think, and
because
see
it's
what
quite,
comes up. Yeah.
yeah, it's, you sort of think, oh, it's a lot. And maybe that's also just added an extra layer for me around thinking about like what am I doing this year and then, move into a different part of the country that brings
Mm,
opportunities as well as challenges. And, just like we were chatting offline around the kind of, I was going to say grinding it out. It's not really, it's because actually I met a really lovely funeral arranger yesterday. And actually the one I met on Thursday was really nice too. But,
oh, good.
doing things that are out of our comfort zone and you're sort of trying to persuade someone to take a chance on you, like you're just a stranger to them. And they get probably, a lot of people coming across their doorstep with like, "Hey, I'm a celebrant, book me, book me." And like it feels a little contrived where you're like, hey, I'm a celebrant, here's my USP. It's like a weird tip, but actually, and it was nice the last couple of days where you could just have a bit of a chat because at the end of the day
Yeah.
it's a person business and how
Yeah.
you make people feel is important.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing where I was like, right, okay, well, just push at it, give it a shot and like and maybe it's like setting a time limit on like, and maybe this is a deadline, maybe this is thinking from like an objectives point of view where you're like, right, maybe this is the year that it's like go hard or go home. And if it's not working out at the end of this year, then, maybe it's time to reflect and do something different. It's hard
Yeah.
because the thing that
I
I
am
was, and
pretty.
actually weird, because I'd asked you a question about this because I was like, is this my
Mm.
inner critic just being noisy, or is there something here? Because that's the trick, isn't it? It's the sweet spot. Like, is this
Yeah.
genuinely what I think, or is this my inner critic trying to keep me safe and go, and tell me stories? And it'd be easier if you just went and got a job and had a regular
Mm.
paycheck. Of course it would, but would it be fulfilling? How would I feel with that? So, actually, I asked Sandra for a tarot reader. I was like, "What the card? Do a card pull for me? Is this like minor critic or what's going on?" And and that's the thing because sometimes we just need a little bit of support to keep going.
Yeah. That's what I love tarot for, because it's such a good
Mm.
tool for guidance. And like we've talked before about it not being like a, fortune telling, but it's like, okay, this is the energy that's showing up for me.
Unfortunately,
I know, just tell me the answer. But it's like, okay, this is the energy that's coming up for me. And how can I, like, what's this bringing up? And how's the best way to move through it? And I love that one of the messages, do you mind me sharing?
no, you go, no.
No, one of the messages that I've been reflecting on that came up in it was about like what you bring to the table. And it was a message that's never come out in the Nine of Pentacles before for me in that particular deck. And it was like, it was really like reflecting on like yourself and like all that you've got to bring to the world and into the space, like whatever space that you're in. I was really thinking about what is it that you're specifically like in your energy and your personality, your presence, your skills, your knowledge, your wisdom, all of it. Like as you collect everything, it's like, when you really reflect on all of that, like you and yourself are valuable. It's not even just you, it's not even the service that you provide. It's in your
Mm.
your individuality and your presence, which is really cool. And I love that message. And I remember like one of the voice notes sharing after that, like saying exactly, go big or go home. Like it feels like this is the year where it's
Mm.
like, this is the year to play big. Like the energy of the fire horse is really supporting us in taking up more space in the world, and not in a way that takes away from anybody else, but actually in your own shining your light and sharing your gifts with the world. It's like shining a light on others and giving them permission to be
Mm.
themselves. And really, it's like this call for the divine feminine right now to step up and to lead and guide in a much more balanced and healthy way. And we really need as many of us as possible on board with that, because it's collective. This isn't just something that we're doing. Yeah, our individual paths like are important, but it's like, part of this podcast is that like we're talking about all these things because we want to lift you guys up. We want you to see how wonderful you are so that you share your gifts also with the world. And
Yeah.
that we're building each other up on the journey to really creating this new world where there's much more balance and like much more flow and much more ease, where we're not, in this like striving for success or trying to prove anything to anybody. It's a much more embodied way of being. And it really is like, it's such a practice. It's such a practice, and it brings up all your shit. And I think that's one of the hardest things about entrepreneurship, especially when you go out on like a solo journey, a solopreneurship journey, where you are wearing all of the hats. And it's going to bring up
Mhm.
so much of your shit. Like it's been this, and I would say like relationships are the two things that have like really pushed me to like really get to the bottom of my shit, to really reflect on what are the patterns in the programming that have been there, what belief system got me to where I was at each of the points on my journey and to where I am now. What's not actually serving me, and where is it that I want to go, and what's a belief system that's going to support that, like as I move forward, and sort of being the example of that in the world. And it's a practice because, like we were saying before about the layers, there's layers to this. So it's like, the more that you move on in this journey and the more you learn to take up more space, it's like more and more and more of the old shit starts to appear. But it's like, you just got to keep moving through it. And I think that I've really noticed, and not that I think, but I know from looking back to when I first started this journey of entrepreneurship, was, I wasn't as confident in who I am and what I have to share with the world. And to be where I am now, it's like that's come through practice and through trial and error and through making mistakes, and also through recognizing like what were the things that actually held me back, and why am I perhaps not exactly where I want to be right now. And it's taking ownership of that and recognizing, okay, well, I allowed old belief systems and old patterns and, self-sabotage to get in the way of my own success. And it's recognizing that and owning that, but not letting that be the thing that stops you, but using that as fuel, using that as the thing
Mm.
this year to fuel you forward, to be like, okay, I've got my eyes on the prize and I know where I want to go. And I've learned the lessons. So this is the time to do things differently. So it's really like a sort of, I'm seeing in my head the judgment card. It's like that calling, like you've had the call and you've learned enough now. Like you don't need to keep holding back from learning, like to learn more. And I know I'm saying
Oh,
this
I thought you
to
were going
the
to
queen of
say, I thought you were about
certificates,
to,
but
I
it's
know,
like,
I thought you were about to tell me I don't need to have any more qualifications, but really that's not what that sentence said. That told me, I was like, I can keep learning.
it doesn't mean that we're not going to be. And
I
I think as
know.
two, like both of us love to learn. And this is the thing, right? Is like we can hold ourselves back in so many ways through being like, oh, if I just learn this other thing, or if I just
Yeah.
get this next certificate or this next qualification. And this is part of like what I think that the message is wanting to come out today is like, it's recognizing your inherent value with what you have and who you are and where you are right now. And that's
Oh.
enough to get you started. You don't need to figure out all of the details. You just need to start showing up for yourself. That gave me goosebumps there. You just need to start showing up for yourself. And it's being uncomfortable in the process of it, right? Because
Mm.
it's not comfortable. And
Yeah.
I've put a lot of pressure on myself in the past and held myself back a lot because I've been like, I need to reach this. And it's an imaginary point, people. There is no finish line. It's like this perfectionist
Oh.
tendencies and all of these voices in the background that are saying like, once you get to this point, but then you get to that point and then there's something else that you feel like you need. And it's just like,
Mm.
we can't be doing that anymore
Oh.
because it's held us back
I,
too much.
yeah.
And
I
it's
think that's a
like,
really powerful
it's
message
really
for
recognizing your
everyone.
value.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think that's such a good message for everybody listening. Like, because we can all get stuck up in comparisonitis or wishing we were somewhere else and or like to where, if only I'd
yeah.
done this instead of that. And sometimes it's like if you can let some of that go, I just recognize it's one of the things in my journal that I finish my pages with. Well, there's two things, three things. One is which is from Louise Hay because I've been listening to one of her audiobooks. Is I love life and life loves me. And the
I love
second
that
one, I
one.
know it's so nice. The second one is everything is working out for me. Like everything is working out for me. So it's like it's with conviction,
Yeah.
which then makes you
Yeah.
realize you are where you need to be because everything's working out. And then the third one
Yeah.
is money flows easily and frequently to me.
Oh,
So
that is one that I am like, yep, yep, I'll
I
take
know
that.
it's
Money
yeah,
flows effortlessly and easily to me. Yes, please. Love a
and
bit of that.
frequently. Don't forget the frequently.
And frequently, frequently.
Or regularly or something. Because I was like, initially when I first
That
wrote it,
is like,
I used that affirmation like I've had it off and on for years actually. And sometimes I forget the frequently bit. And I'm like, no, universe, like
Mm,
it, make it easy, but make it regular. Thanks very much. And actually, interestingly, I've sold two
yeah.
things on Vinted this week. I mean,
Yes.
the
Love
grand
that.
sum of £7 isn't really going to transform my life, but it is money flowing in. So
It
I'm
is
very
money
grateful.
flowing. Yeah. I
Have
found a
you
penny
seen
today.
any of the find a penny, pick it up all day long, you'll
Says
have
a
good luck?
lucky penny. Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? I was walking along and I saw it and I smiled to myself. And then I nearly just kept walking. And then I stopped and I was like, Sandra, this is evidence in your surroundings. And this is the thing, is like sometimes it's recognizing the little signs from the universe,
Yeah.
the little signs of abundance that are all around you. And so I did, I picked it up and I held on to it. And whenever I find pennies, I used to put them in a little jar. Um, because it's like it's sort of remembering. But then part of me was like, that the whole point with this is that abundance in any form is meant to be shared. There's meant to be a flow. We're not meant to necessarily hold on to these things. But I thought this is my lucky penny. And so I popped it in my pocket and it made me smile because I was like, this is a little nod from the universe.
Yeah.
If I came across more than a penny, that would
A
also be
tenner?
nice. I am open. But I think this is the thing, it's
Absolutely.
recognising, isn't it, the little things. And like you see, even with your £7 vintage sales, it's like, thank you. I'm like, thank you for my penny. And thank you
Yeah.
for all of the abundance that is on its way.
Have you seen any of the memes? I had to explain what a meme was to my parents last night, which is quite tricky because it's like how to explain
What
something
is
that
it mean?
when you can't use a visual aid. I was like, I should have just got my phone and said, this is a meme. Um,
Yeah.
but have you seen all the memes that are on TikTok about vintage selling? It's obviously I
I've
have something.
probably seen the odd one.
Oh, it just makes me laugh because it's like where people are coming. I don't know what I've done to my glasses here. Where people are coming in going, you're selling something. So like one of the things was like it's a new dress with tags from my old shop now. Admittedly, it's several years old, but it's brand new, never worn tags on it. And then it's like it's on for £7. Now full price that would have been 70 back in whatever year it was, right? And they're like, we
Jeez.
do this for £6.50. You're just like, and then you realize everybody just wants a fucking bargain. And like, I'm the same, right?
Everybody
Because
wants a
like,
bargain.
I'll
I
see
was going to
stuff and
say,
I'm
you
like,
love a bargain.
I do love a bargain. But then also, like, it's like, or like the latest one was, there was some, Mia had My Little Ponies, right? And she's just outgrown them all. So there's a selection. There's like 8 My Little Ponies. And I had them on for £4. Would you take £3.25? And now I'm just at the point where, do you know what? And then this is where it was interesting with my mindset shift a wee bit, because part of me was like, well, I think the value is more. But then I'm like, well, do you just hold out
Hmm.
for a buyer? These things have been sitting around for ages. And it's like, it's also saying to, you think, well, so it's just stopping holding on for an extra 50p, but it's just I don't know, sometimes on Vinted it's like you're just like why are you messing around with like 50p off? But anyway, so that's my
No,
Vinted
I
story.
know.
It's just really annoying me.
I feel like
I'm
this
going
is
to digress
universal though.
into I know I want to digress into something else. So where this is an interesting conversation around I've leaned forward for this because
I was going to
it
say,
is
I'm like, is this a
it's
secret?
amused the shit out of me. But there's a weird sort of thing around it's interesting watching the commentary that's going on around this, but there's also a question around like karma. And this is to do with
Mm.
have you seen all the stuff to do with Brooklyn Beckham denouncing
No.
on social media? Oh, so this is where I'm like, I need to get on an entertainment podcast.
You need another
Your TikTok
podcast with
feed if
someone
your
who
phone's listed.
actually is up to date with the
Uh,
news.
well, so, how to make this
I
all
just don't
about
follow
the woo
anything
woo
like
side, right?
celebrity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's bring a woo woo slant to some of this. So to
But
catch
can I
Sandra
get
up,
some
basically,
context?
yeah.
Bring me
So
up to speed.
to catch Sandra up, Brooklyn Beckham, you know who he is, right?
Yeah,
The child of
yeah.
Victoria and David
David
Beckham,
Beckham. Yeah.
and Victoria Beckham, ex Spice Girl.
And Victoria Beckham. Yeah.
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 And he is now married to a woman called Nicola. I think it's Nicola Peltz. Now, her family are billionaires. I don't know what they've done. They're American, right? But anyway,
Mhm.
they got married last year sometime. And there's been a whole thing. There's been a falling out between Brooklyn and his parents, and he doesn't speak to them. Now, Brooklyn has three other siblings, two boys and a girl. But there's been no chat. And then they didn't share anything at Christmas. And of course, obviously, a lot of this lives out on social media because they've been like Brooklyn's been famous since he was conceived. And I think he's
Hmm.
24 now, right? Anyway, he went on to Instagram stories last week and basically put out a statement as to why he's not talking to his parents anymore. And he kind of went to town on his mum a lot of it. The key points are the two things. One is something about the wedding dress that apparently Nicola had asked Victoria to design it 'cause she's a designer now. And she'd said no,
Hmm.
but he's saying it was an 11th hour U-turn and that there's a whole thing of Victoria and Nicola haven't liked each other, blah, blah, blah. And then the second thing was that she ruined their first dance at the wedding, right? And apparently, Mark Antony, who I think is Jennifer Lopez's ex-husband, had wanted to something about bringing somebody onto the dance floor anyway, and apparently Victoria then danced with Brooklyn, so it wasn't the bride and the groom. So it was mother and son.
Oh,
And
okay.
apparently, according to Brooklyn, and I've got inverted commas here, she danced inappropriately and made him feel very uncomfortable. Right.
Okay.
Now, I'm like, there's two sides to every story, and the truth is sitting somewhere in the middle, right? But this is where
Yeah.
it's quite interesting when you watch some of the stuff that's been coming out, is there's been people going, you've literally been born with a silver spoon in your mouth and you've been able to do, your parents have supported you, blah, blah, blah. The Beckhams have come out with nothing. And then somebody else I followed was said that this is generally their strategy on anything that's negative PR is they do not comment, they do not say anything, they do not rise to the bait. And what they then do is probably put out a lot of like photographic imagery, content, blah, blah, blah. Right. Now, Brooklyn's obviously
Okay.
trying to just stick the knife into his parents, right? And maybe this is the bit where I'm like, karma, although it's like, before I come to that, it's like, some of the comedy gold that creators have come up with has been genius. And this was why I had to explain a meme to my mum and dad, because the amount of
Oh.
memes that have come up around because there's no video, there's no photographs, nothing has come out with like this first dance. Now there's 500 people at that wedding, right? But there's been nothing. So everybody has been making up what said first
I
dance
was
might
going to
look like.
say, and like this is the thing when people don't have a visual, like the mind could go anywhere. Like,
Oh,
what is she
I've
like
seen
dropping it like it's hot
Mr.
or
Bean
what?
dancing, like, Mr. Bean, like some of his dancing. I have seen somebody did a cut from the Dirty Dancing at the last bit where Patrick Swayze's like down and he's like getting all the everybody to dance up to. I've also seen, if you've seen Grease, there's a bit where at the dance competition where Sandra Dee and is it Johnny? I can't remember who John Travolta plays. And they're in this
I
dance
think so.
competition and they like she's very wholesome. So it's obviously like this is like imagining it's like Nicola and then Brooklyn is the John Travolta character. And then as towards the end of this dance competition, they're the last couple standing, and then one guy comes in and takes the Sandra Dee character away, and in its place is John Travolta's character's ex-girlfriend, who's called Cha-Cha. I think she's Cha-Cha Degora. And she comes in and she's like, ah, very sexy, like, ah, and like, and then like, so it's like the amount of like, and then there's been like people pretending to be like the DJ at the, like some stuff that's come up. Partly Cruise Beckham liked one of those. There's been like Scottish people and Irish people playing it out like as if you're the family. I saw one person do this really, how like a lot of people take the piss out of the influencers when they go live and they're like, just waiting for
Mm,
people to join and I'll just take some questions. And it was this person had got like it was like it was a woman, but it was David Beckham face, and it was like David Beckham's gone live taking questions and obviously taking the piss out a bit of his voice. And and he's like saying, "Oh yeah, Vicky's dead pissed off," and it's just been hilarious, right? But the thing that I was sort of thinking about from a karmic point of view, so he's Brooklyn Beckham's objective is, well, we don't know what his objective is, but he's put something out there to tell the story to like, I mean, part of the intent, I imagine, is to have a big fuck you to his parents, right? But what he has
Mm.
achieved is his mum is now number one in the charts with all her solo material post the Spice Girls split because she did the thing with Dane Bowers with the True Steppers, "You're out of your mind." I don't know if you remember that song. It's like, and then there was another song that she did was, I think it's like "Not Such an Innocent Girl" or something, right? So I was like, you just couldn't
I don't
make
think I
this
know
up.
any of her stuff.
Well, she never
I
made
don't
it
think
to
I know
number
any
one when
of
she
her, like,
released the songs. And then I'm laughing because
but
like
now
there's
she
stuff
has.
being get like the only way that the Beckhams can do this is that to get to recover from this PR disaster is Spice Girls reunion. It's just like, but do you know the other thing? So there's a whole thing of like, what was your objective on this? So like, and then weirdly you sort of think, well,
Mm,
the Beckhams haven't risen to the bait, and actually karma has now served a lot more money into her bank account because all this the song royalties. And number one, people are
mm,
talking about like, the whole brand Beckham. Apparently there's a whole sort of other
yeah.
weird stuff that sits underneath it. And then you start going, if you go back around what's the right way or the wrong way to bring up your children, and like these people have always been in the spotlight, and can you ever, but I was just like, and the other thing that struck me with this whole nonsense, apart from actually giving a good chuckle, is that there's so much just horrible news on at the moment. And that it feels like the whole of
Mm.
Britain has just like embraced this like family feud being played out on social media. And as you say, when there's
It's just
when
'cause it's
there's no
comedy.
counter, people just fill the vacuum. But it did make me laugh.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like some of it's just so hilarious, so hilarious. Um,
It's
but it's
mad,
like
isn't
try
it?
not
It's
to be
like,
gossipy about it, but you're sort of like, yeah.
I wonder how the other siblings are feeling slash responding as well to that.
Well, Cruz
Like,
Beckham
if
has
they're in the
come out.
middle of it.
Well, so there's Cruz, I think, is the young. So there's three boys. Brooklyn, I think then Romeo is the middle one, and Cruz, and then Harper is the girl, and she's the youngest. But I think Cruz has come out with. So there was something before all of this. There was a whole thing of apparently people saying that Victoria and David had blocked Brooklyn on social media, and Cruz came out and said, "No, what happened is we all as a family woke up to being blocked by Brooklyn." And like there's lots of family photos of like the Beckhams and then the kids, but minus Brooklyn. It's interesting because you
Mm.
sort of think, like the two families, and then you just think how much of this is real, how much of it's just stuff to distract us. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I've enjoyed having a laugh at certain stuff, and that's where like some of the social media now, like that's one thing I really love about TikTok is people's creativity. Um,
Yeah.
but you just sort of think, at the end of the day, there's family, there's people, there's feelings here. But like at the end of the day, it's like, maybe don't air what's the adage from back in the days, you don't air your dirty laundry in public. There's
Yeah. And
consequences.
that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, I can't imagine being brought up in that way where there's so many eyes on you and also the
Mm.
expectation that everybody should know your personal life. And it's
I
like,
don't know if it is an expert. It's
I
a
mean,
funny one though, yeah, isn't it? Because you sort of think, well, nobody's at, so there's been lots of then comments around, like Brooklyn has had a number of different career choices, and his parents have
mm,
probably funded and supported a lot of that. And he's probably never wanted for anything. But then sometimes you just think, like, and this is the whole thing around social media as well. I was laughing because there's lots of memes around that Harry's been on the phone to him, Prince Harry, and like how he doesn't speak to
oh,
William
right,
and Kate
okay.
anymore. And like it's, but I think this is then it comes back to like social media, force for good or force for evil.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the drama's in it. And it's like, I suppose it does, it comes back to what's the intention around it all. And also, like, is that the answer? Probably not.
Well, I'm sure that when he put his statement out onto Insta stories, and like, I mean, it's sort of like, why did you feel like, and maybe like it's interesting when you look at like Victoria and David, like over the years they've had various things that have come at them, allegations of affairs, allegations of like, whatever, and they just don't rise to the bait and they don't
Yeah.
say anything. And then I sort of think it's that thing of like, when you were young, did you get the if you can't say anything nice, don't say or good or whatever, don't say anything at all?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. No, I don't think anybody actually told me that, but I'd heard it.
I
Yeah.
heard it. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
strange one. And then you just think, like, you could have just sent them an email, tell them to fuck off and stop bothering you.
Mm.
Like, but no, you put something on Instagram
Yeah.
stories. So it's like like you sort of think, where are you taking responsibility for your part? Because, like, like I was saying, there are two sides. Both of them are probably, and
Mm.
then you think of any sort of relationship, isn't it? It's like, with two people or however many people, is like what happens when you have a relationship. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a romantic one or it could be a familiar one, is you create this third entity that both of you have to nourish and water and give it what it
Yeah.
needs. Sometimes one person does that a bit more than the other because it's that whole, like, the 100% thing. Sometimes it's like, I have nothing to give that just now, so somebody else
Yeah.
takes it. But it's like, if there's not contribution, it just withers and dies. And so both,
Yes.
at my view,
Yeah.
I'm like, both people could be taking some responsibility. And then you think,
Yeah.
like if you think of that, if that was you and like a relationship that you had was being played out over Instagram stories, and then half the
Mhm.
world makes a meme to the so much so that your song suddenly becomes number one again. You must be like, the world has gone fucking crazy.
I think the world is pretty crazy, to be honest. And that's the thing about social media, isn't it? It's like, if people are going
Mm,
to choose to share dramas publicly, then there's going to be some sort of repercussions for that. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
because people are
S-
contributing energetically then because they're seeing something.
mm,
But you're so right about like the energy. It's funny because when you said that, it reminded me and my ex, we went to a therapist. We had one session, and I remember it was just after coming back from Australia, and I remember her saying about, there's you two, each of you, and then there's the relationship. She says, what I'm here to focus on is the relationship. And it was the first time anyone had ever presented it to me that way, that it was like, there's this entity in between, and it's like, how are each of us contributing to that energy,
mm,
you know? And it's like, it's a really interesting way to shift your perspective when it comes to relationships, because it's like, each of you are having to, contribute and add in and nourish that relationship, like you say. Then it's like, are you both growing it? Are you both growing it in the direction that you want it to go?
mm,
Um, and then it's like, it's also like, if that energy, that entity gets damaged by one party, and then it's like, well, how do we resolve that? How can we bring energetic balance back to that relationship? And you're totally right. It takes accountability
mm,
from both sides to be like, okay, well, what am I willing to do? What are you willing to do? What can we do? Can we meet on a middle ground to try and resolve whatever conflict or whatever is
mm,
going on? Um, I don't envy them being so much in the public eye and having their personal stuff, because that's not for me. With my hermit line and human design, I'm like, you know.
yeah.
But
It's
then
a
I
funny,
think it's
it's,
like,
yeah.
I
No,
think
oh,
it
you go.
comes back
Yeah.
to what you said about like what's the objective with this? You know, if it was like a teachable moment of being like some things came up at the wedding, you know, and talking about it from that perspective, but it's
Yeah.
almost like a you did this wrong and you must be shunned
Honestly,
in front of the
you
whole
should see some
world.
of the memes
And
because, like, to use language like it was like inappropriate and I felt uncomfortable. It's like no wonder, like the
mm,
range of stuff that's coming out on these memes, and you just think,
yeah.
um. But I do just come back to thinking maybe you could have just sent your mum an email and said, "This is what's been bugging me." Or gone to a
Yeah.
counselor or
Picked
something,
up the
but
phone.
you've and this
Mm,
is the bit a bit around the karmic bit where I was thinking, is it karma that you've chosen to put this out there on social media, knowing full well all the following, and was your intent to have the sympathies lie with you and throw shade on your parents?
mm,
Because if and maybe this is your bit around intention, like when we do stuff with intention, like if your intention isn't I was going to say pure, but I don't mean it in the sense of like holier than thou. But if you've done something to particularly manipulate a situation and anticipate a particular outcome, this to me was a lesson in
mm.
karma, where actually
Ye
a lot of people don't believe what you're, they think that the people are falling on the side more of like Victoria and David and the other family members. I think there is a recognition for him having lived his whole life in the public spotlight, and the Beckhams
Yeah.
having like the brand Beckham and they own his name as brand Beckham and all this kind of bullshit, right? But I think it comes back to like karma's maybe turned around and said, like, that's the thing. It's like you've gone out there with an intention that has it
Mm,
paid off, and karma has given you an immediate response, which, yes, a lot of people
yeah.
are having sympathy for you, but the rest of it is like you've just put something to allow people to their imaginations to run wild. And now as a
Mm,
result, you've given your mum and dad a lot of free PR.
yeah.
you know,
It's like that
so you're
whole, like,
sort
no
of
PR is bad PR, innit?
yeah, it's but
Mm.
it has amused me with some of the stuff that's come out. And
It's
that's the
so
other thing as
interesting,
well,
isn't
like
it?
the
Like, when you look at the different ways that people handle things as well, like, 'cause
Mhm,
it's that like, the way that I'm seeing it with Brooklyn is that I'm gonna run out and tell all my friends, and actually it's more than that, it's going out and telling the entire world, and that's quite a big action to take with a lot of consequences.
it's
And
not
then
sitting round the
on the
back
other
having
side of
like
it,
a cheeky cider with slagging off your folks to your pals, is it? It's like they won't let
like,
me stay out longer.
yeah,
It's like hello, Instagram stories and millions of people and the press and
it's big, innit? But
mm,
then you wonder what's underlying, isn't it? And I think a big part of it also is that we don't see the full picture of anything. Like
no.
nobody ever does. And like only the people, well, I was going to say only the people who were, you know, witness to what went on really know. But even then, everybody has got a different lens that they're looking through and
Hmm.
would have seen it. Like some people would have been like, oh, that's lovely. Like Victoria wants to dance with her son at his wedding. Like there would be some people who would choose to see it that way. And then there'd be other people on like an extreme other end being like, that's not cool. You've
Yeah,
taken the spotlight or whatever. And it's like, you know, it's really, I suppose, about the people who were involved. That's what it
yeah.
comes down to. Because it's not really about
There's
anybody else, it's about
I know.
them. But it's an interesting way to go
There
about it, isn't it?
It's very odd. And as I say, like now what's going to happen is next time you go onto TikTok, you will be presented with a lot of this. But
I know, because the
maybe to
phone is
finish up
listening.
this bit of the conversation, well, two things. One, I think it would be I think it'd be good to pull the card after this conversation to see what's happening and see how it can bring us into a circular moment. But the last thing I want to say is there's a woman that I follow on TikTok. So this is to bring it properly into the land of the woo, who uses divining rods, and she asks so
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
her she asks questions of the rods around, so actually she did ask questions about the Beckham situation, but she asked lots of like weird and wonderful questions around what's going on around trying to get to the, like, in her view it's like the rods help like the truth. It's like like we're in the Matrix
Yeah.
and are you on the red pill or the blue pill? But I
Yeah.
thought that's a nice woo lens to finish the Beckham conversation on. Let's see what the rods are
Yeah.
saying.
Well, we see what the cards are saying, not
Yeah, I'd be
specifically
interested to
about
see.
the
No, but I
Beckhams,
think
but it'd be
given
interesting to see.
just with like the chat and the energetics of the conversation to see like,
Mm.
it's going to be like, what's the message here?
Universe, what's the guidance for the person listening? What is the guidance for the person listening today?
Maybe the
What
Beckhams
is
will
the
be listening to
guidance?
this.
Imagine we'll end up going
You're out
viral.
of your mind. I can't get that song out of my head now. Do, do, do. It's like, that's my little true steppers. And it's like, uh, one of the memes I saw was Dane Bowers on the phone to the True Steppers going like, you're never going to guess what's happened. And then they were like, I think we should tour, but let's get someone else to stand in instead of Vicky. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh,
This
hilarious.
is so interesting. The card that's just come out. It's the Five of Pentacles. After that conversation that you were just talking about, because this is like feeling abandoned. This is
Yeah,
like, if you think about like everything that you were just saying, it's like being left out in the cold.
yeah,
And like, I suppose that's like the extreme other end of the scale of that situation was that they're like now no longer part of the family unit.
I
Do you know what I
know.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
what was sort of sprung to my mind there?
death
Oh,
and
what's on the
rebirth on
box?
the bottom,
Right.
death. So it's like, that is an interesting one.
My sort of thought on that, right? So, um, just in the relation to the context. So, Brooklyn, if you're listening, my
Mm.
interpretation of these cards for you, like the classic, or maybe it could be anybody who's sitting in a situation where you are feeling like that abandonment and you are feeling alone. But the classic around in the Rider Waite for that is that it's people out in the cold, it's winter, and like, but you're walking past a warm church, like there's something within your vicinity that will get you back into the fold. And
Mm.
maybe that's where the death
Yeah,
and rebirth is. And that might be something needs to end, or you need to change a belief or change something. And that, in the
yeah.
rebirth, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like this is to me the bit of the message around what's your part in the situation, and that you
Mm.
can
Yeah,
easily
yeah,
you can get out of the cold, like it's
yeah,
there, but it's
yeah.
almost like you're choosing to sit in this now.
Mm.
What else fell out?
This is like the first card that came out was the Seven of Cups,
Oh,
which
choices.
touches on like, yeah, choices, which is like what you were first saying. It's like if there is an energy of feeling this way. I mean, like the Five of Pentacles can also talk about like scarcity mindset and feeling like a lack of
Mm.
resources, a lack of security and stability. And so, however that sort of speaks to you, whether it is like, you're talking about like the family unit, or if it's feeling like left out in the cold, it's like, what are the options that are available to you? And this is like sort of looking at what are the
The
options.
fire horse
Um,
here. Maybe this is also like you
yeah,
were saying that weird energy just now, and we're
somebody
sort of
tell
sitting
him.
here and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, head in hands, like, and we've got all these
Mm,
choices, and it's like, now is the time.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And there were two other cards that came out, and I love this for this energy because it's two. We've got two threes, the Three of Pentacles and the Three of Cups. And these are
Oh.
both collaborative energies. And this is really looking at like, what are the energies that are lifting you up? What are the energies that are lighting you up in your life? What are the ones, because this is the thing, is like sometimes when you're in this energy of like the Five of Pentacles, if there's a situation where like you are feeling a bit left out or you're feeling in lack in some way, it's looking at what are the things around you that are really positive, and where can you make connections that feel like you are being recognized for everything that you're bringing to the table, where you're being recognized for your worth, for,
Mm.
your energy, and for the lightness that you bring. It's like where are those? Because with these two threes together, this is really about like, because I asked about the guidance for this Five of Pentacles, and it's like really shifting your perspective away from the boo-hoo, poor me, to being like, okay, what's the good that's going on around me? And this is not, I don't say boo-hoo, poor me to be like diminishing anybody's situation, because the Five of Pentacles can be a really, really challenging energy. But it's about shifting your perspective to look at, if you're feeling like you are sort of on your own at the minute, where can you find this sort of collaborative energy? Where can you come together with like-minded people? Where can you celebrate yourself, I want to say, and also the people around you? Like with this Three of Cups is it's like the sisterhood vibe. It's being like, I'm going to surround myself with the people who I feel really good around, not the people who make me feel like I'm not good enough. Because the Five of Pentacles is this energy of, I mean, if you look at this, he is like in bad shape. This guy's like not feeling good about himself, his life, or his circumstances. But it's like, there are options. And the cups talk about our emotions and love and our emotional world. So it's also about like what feels good to your heart, and really focusing your energy on that. Focusing your attention on what you're building in life, not just building in terms of your work that you do and your contribution and service in the world, but also in terms of your relationships and just how valuable you really are. Because like I really love this Three of Cups in this deck, because it's properly like pals energy. It's a lovely energy of like coming together and being like with like-minded people. That's so interesting. What wasn't expecting this vibe to come out today. What comes up for you with
Although,
those cards as well, Gail? Anything else?
um, so setting aside those, so they've been pulled straight after that kind of conversation about what's happening in a celebrity's life. If we go back to the start of the conversation and like kind of what we're talking about around where we're at the start of this year, certainly
Mm-hmm.
for me around some of like the relationships and the choices. The other thing that popped into my head was so the Seven of Cups I quite often have in a particular, I'm always like, oh, it's choices. But I did a reading for myself, it was been a wee while back, and the interpretation for the Seven of Cups came out as a procrastination around choices. It's
Mm,
like,
yeah.
sometimes it's like, shall I choose this or shall I choose that or shall I choose that? And I'm procrastinating around
Mm,
rather than actually making a choice and moving forward. So I've sort of like, when you've got those two cards there, it's like, well, this is giving you some direction on what to choose. So if you are feeling quite stuck
yeah.
around, that you are in that kind of energy of the Five of Pentacles, and it's like, you do have choices. There will be choices staring at you, and that might be compounding the sense of how you're feeling just now.
Yeah.
But the other two cards are giving you an indication, and it's almost like choose the collaboration and the friendship and the energy, the high vibe of that, and also then like the Three of
Mm,
Pentacles being more of that materiality. Is it's almost like
yeah.
that's when things start to flow on that ease, and
Mm,
the money mantra that we were
yeah.
just talking there. Um,
Yeah.
I do love
I
like, I
love
mean,
that
yeah,
because at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Two of Wands, which is a choice. And you've been talking about
yeah,
choices. It's like getting
yeah.
out of your comfort zone, like the choices to get out of your comfort zone. The other thing that came up as you were talking about, like circling back to the earlier conversation, is like the Five of Pentacles. It can be something that came up was around like work and like potentially like being unemployed, or like you've been given notice on your job, or there's a change in
Mm,
the structure or something, and you're feeling a bit like, oh fuck, what now? Um, so that was something that was coming up, and like this is potentially like about a shift into like a new way of doing things, where like you're actually more recognized for your contribution and what it is that you do and what you bring. But there might be a requirement to really get out of your comfort zone. and like approach things. It's a new way of doing things, and it's going to be much more healing. It's going to be really healing to do that, and closing out a cycle, starting a new cycle with the world here as well. Oh, this has been a juicy episode.
Oh, it's really quite. It's funny. I love how all the kind of the strands we sort of tie back.
Hmm. Yeah. Let us
Joseph.
know how it resonates for you, people. I would love to hear from you. What is going on in your life? Where are you? How do the cards resonate and the messages that have come up? What is your take on the Beckham situation?
Sorry,
Let us
it was
know.
just front of mind. I think because this week I have laughed a lot at the creativity,
That's
but
good.
I don't
That's
mean
a
I've
good
not laughed at
episode.
their situation. I have enjoyed the creativity, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think as well, like given what's going on in the world at the moment, it's been nice to have a chuckle, and I think that's maybe what
Yeah.
also like the collective has embraced this, like
Mm,
actually just need to have a good giggle at something and not to belittle that it's about some family dramas and that there's heart and emotion sitting underneath that, but setting that aside, um it's it's been quite nice to have a little giggle.
the light-hearted side of it.
Yeah, for
Mm,
sure.
yeah. With
For
everything
sure.
going on in the world, geez. For sure,
Hmm.
we need that. Need some laughs.
Until the next time, dear listener,
Until the
send in your
next time.
comments. I know. We'll chat
Yeah.
soon.
Get in touch.
Bye.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you have enjoyed what we were chatting about, please leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what landed. And please feel free to share this with a pal if you know anyone who would be interested. Until the next episode. See you later.